Hello and welcome to another story recap video. I'm Ghost Stefana, and in this video I'll be explaining and recapping the story of Assassin's Creed Unity. This should go without saying, but there will be spoilers ahead, obviously. If you do find yourself enjoying my dulcet tones and dad jokes, then please do hit subscribe. I regularly post recaps and reviews, and I also take requests as well. Bonjour, welcome to the beautiful land of France, 1776. Before we delve into the events of this game, let's just recap the ever-growing Assassin's Creed timeline. Assassin's Creed Unity is the 8th major installment of the series, and it follows Assassin's Creed Rogue and precedes Assassin's Creed Syndicate. If you haven't played Rogue, then you can discover its story by clicking up here. The game begins in the modern day with Abstergo Industries, basically the modern day Templars and bad guys. They are launching a new project called Helix, which is essentially a video game platform which allows users to access parts of history using genetic memories. So in a sense, it's a bit like playing Assassin's Creed within Assassin's Creed. It's all very Inception. We take a brief tutorial dive into the tragedy of Jacques de Molay, a famous French Templar knight from the 14th century. In the short mission, we witness the famous sacking of the Paris Temple, and witness de Molay tasking his advisor to hide his Sword of Eden and Codex, two precursor relics that both Assassin and Templar hunt. I'm going to assume you know the lore around the Assassin versus Templar conflict. If not, you can find an explanation in this video from 1 minute 45 seconds. The unnamed Templar fights through the attackers, including this guy, whom he slays with the aforementioned magical sword. He successfully manages to hide the relics before moments later being killed by an assassin, whom then one assumes recovers the relics. A flash forward sees the Templar Grandmaster de Molay being burned at the stake by King Philip. Anyone else smell bacon? Our session is then interrupted by a modern-day assassin known as Bishop. She explains how Abstergo are manipulating us via the Helix project to their own evil ends. The assassin continues to ask us to delve into some unsequenced memories that she has discovered in the Abstergo servers. We arrive in Versailles in 1776. Gamers who have played Assassin's Creed Rogue or have recently watched my recap from that game will recognize this infamous scene. Charles Dorian is accompanied by his son Arno to the royal palace. Charles heads off to an important meeting before handing Arno his watch and telling him he'll be back soon. After some exploring, the young Frenchman, who speaks perfect English with no accent, meets a girl of a similar age. Her name is Elise de la Serre. A short time later, we hear a commotion and see a crowd gathering. Arno then finds his father dead on the palace floor. Thanks to Assassin's Creed Rogue, we know that this was by the hand of the Templar, Shay Cormac. Naturally shell-shocked, Arno freezes in terror before we are approached by Elise's father, who offers a comforting hand. We flash forward 13 years, and my god, Arno is a handsome chap. We find that he is now living with Francois de la Serre, Elise's father, who comforted us all those years ago. During conversation, Arno learns that Elise is in town, suggesting that she has not been for some time. Francois heads off to a meeting before Arno encounters a man who was trying to deliver an important letter to Mr. de la Serre. Arno offers to take the letter to him. The man thanks him and again reminds Arno of the importance of its contents. However, during the quest to deliver the letter, Arno learns of a party happening at the palace, of which Elise will be attending. Unable to avoid the temptation of a royal rave, our handsome hero decides to put the letter under the door of Francois de la Serre's study for him to collect later. Arno gatecrashes the party and is confronted by Elise, who, ooh la la, has grown up. The two childhood friends seem to have developed a bit more of an adult relationship over the years and share a smooch while this pervy painting watches. Arno later leaves the party and witnesses a man who has indulged in too many Jaeger bombs. However, our hero soon discovers it is no mere drunk, but Francois Delasere himself, and he has been stabbed in the neck. We see the two culprits, who shout for the guards, whom arrive and naturally assume that Arno is responsible. We are then thrown into the famous French prison known as the Bastille, no affiliation to the rather tepid rock band that formed in 2010. An unspecified amount of time passes in prison before we awake to find a fellow inmate has taken our father's watch before demanding we tell him where we acquired it. The duo fights before Arno tells him to return to his crazy drawings, which Arno noticed the night before on the cell wall. Our roommate displays surprise that Arno can see said drawings. The fact that Arno noticed the markings on the wall reveals that he has eagle vision, a common skill in the series that assassins possess. Upon learning his surname, the man reveals himself to be Pierre Belec, an assassin who once worked with our father, whom, unbeknown to Arno, was also an assassin. Belec returns the watch and the two become close, with the French assassin, whom also doesn't sound remotely French, agreeing to train us. During our time together, he also tells us that Francois Delasere was actually a Templar Grand Master, just in case we needed our origin story to be any more complex. After months of training inside the cell, the Bastille is stormed by revolutionaries as the French Revolution starts to begin. The duo seize this opportunity and manage to escape the prison. Belec encourages Arno to find him if he wishes to one day avenge his father, before saying goodbye in the same way that my father used to say goodbye to me before he left for work.
Goodbye, piss pot!
We manage to find Elise and begin to profess our innocence before telling her that her father was a Templar. However, this is not news to Elise, who also knew of our father's background and who is also, get this, a member of the Templar Order. After a plot twist far more unpredictable than when Harry Potter came back to life in Hagrid's arms, Elise hands us a letter. The letter appears to be the very same that Arno had left under Monsieur Delasere's door earlier in the story. Elise informs us that it was found unopened. Upon reading its contents, we discover it was a warning letter telling him of the planned murder. Had Arno delivered the message on time, it is likely the Templar Grand Master would have lived. Arno seeks out the assassins upon the advice of our former prison buddy. After being forced to partake in some weird assassin ritual hallucination, we are officially inducted into the order by the group's leader, Mirabeau. And I think, for one of the world's most secret and ancient organisations, that was incredibly easy to find and join. In the modern day, Bishop shows us an internal Abstergo memo, which details a secret project called the Phoenix Project. This project is quite complex, but essentially it's a way to build a new and stronger DNA using special and unique people known as sages. Sages exist throughout history and are said to have ancient precursor DNA, which is highly sought after. She continues to explain that at some point in his life, Arno Dorian is said to have encountered one of such sages. The assassin hacker wants us to search his genetic memories to find out who this person was so that they can find the body in the modern day. It's all very strange, and if you're feeling a little bit lost right now, don't worry. I was, and it will begin to make a bit more sense later. Back in Arno land, we are given the task of hunting down and killing the Templar known as Sever, one of the men who was present at Delasere's death. We are successful in our task and kill the Templar. During his death, we experience Sever's memories, and to be honest, I'm still not entirely sure how this works or how Arno does it, but let's just ignore it because the simple explanation is it's kind of needed for the plot. During the memory flashes, we see Delasere's death and discover that the other man is known as the King of Beggars. We track down the King of Beggars' right-hand man, Latouche. When about to confront the man, we are stopped by another, known as Marquis de Sade. Also, I feel like I need to use this opportunity to apologise to anyone who is French watching this video because I'm very aware I am butchering these names. Desard reveals that he has watched Arno for some time, which is a little bit weird, and they share similar goals. The flamboyant Frenchman suggests we follow Latouche, who will likely lead us to the King of Beggars. After finding the King of Beggars, we kill him and again witness his memories. Within them, we don't learn too much, but we do discover the unusual weapon that the man used to kill Monsieur de la Serre. Sometime later, we encounter Desard again, who has quickly assumed the role of the King of Beggars, taking over the Parisian slums. The newfound king shows us an item similar to that which killed our adopted father. The man tells us the name and location of the silversmith whom is said to have made it. In the hope that this will lead us to those who gave the killing order, we track down the smith. The man is called Francois Thomas Germain, and upon finding him claims that he is being held in this building against his will by armed guards. We escort the man to safety before he tells us he was asked to make the weapon by a Templar called Lafreniere. While hunting the elusive Templar, we learn that he was planning some sort of assault on a nearby hotel. Sometime later, we find and kill Lafreniere. However, within his memories, we discover that he was behind the warning letter that we were supposed to deliver to de la Serre, suggesting that Lafreniere wasn't behind the killing at all. We report our news to the Brotherhood, who are furious that Arno acted without their permission in killing Lafreniere. Despite this, we are allowed to continue our investigation and head to the hotel that the Templar were planning to assault. When there, we overhear a secret meeting between a rogue branch of Templars, seemingly those behind de la Serre's murder. The people in the meeting address one of the members as Grand Master, although his identity is not revealed. During the chat, we learn of plans to ambush and kill our dear Elise. We arrive just in time and kill the attackers, saving our former lover stroke sister. I just realized how weird that is. After explaining what he has learnt, Arno convinces Elise to work with the assassins to help find her father's killer. However, her reception at Assassin HQ is mixed. Mirabeau is keen to hear Elise out and work with her, but others disagree, including Belek. Later, when mentioning the silversmith Thomas Germain, Elise begins to freak out. We later learn that Francois Thomas Germain was an old lieutenant of her father, but he is supposed to be dead after he was cast out by the Order for having radical views on the late Templar Jacques de Molay. Remember the man earlier who was turned into a KFC bargain bucket. Investigating Germain's residency, we find evidence that he was behind the killing of de la Serre, and get this, is the elusive Templar Grand Master. We quickly head to inform Mirabeau of our findings. When arriving, however, we find Elise standing over the dead Master Assassin. Elise protests her innocence, that which Arno believes. We learn that Mirabeau was poisoned and managed to track down the supplier of the poison. To our surprise, the man informs us that he sold the poison to a fellow assassin. After following the trail, we learn the killer was in fact Belek.
Took you long enough, piss pot.
Well, actually, it didn't. Probably about 10 minutes, but that's only because I went to the shop to get a new sword first. Belek explains that he killed the group's leader as he disagreed with his ideas and willingness for peace with the Templars. He asks Arno to join him, but naturally, Arno refuses, causing Belek to attack. The student and mentor duel like Anakin and Obi-Wan, with Arno eventually killing his master. After informing our colleagues of the events, we learn that Mirabeau has been in contact with the monarchy and was perhaps not very secret about the so-called secret assassin order. Fearing these letters could be discovered as the French Revolution gathers momentum, Arno is sent to retrieve and destroy them. During his time, we meet a young Napoleon. Yes, that Napoleon. The two strike up a bond before Arno retrieves and destroys said letters. When escaping, we notice one of the members from the secret Templar meeting. Napoleon reveals him to be Captain Rui. With the help of our new friend, we find and kill Rui and learn of another associate, Marie Levay, who upon the instruction of Germain is attempting to slowly starve the the French population by affecting the food supply to hopefully then incite riots. With Elise's help, we find and assassinate Levay, which sets up our next lead, a Monsieur Le Peltier, who is spearheading a plot against the king. Elise and Arno are forced to flee via a hot air balloon and, when safe, rekindle their romance, albeit with Arno's face moulding into his jacket collar, which in truth is a perfect representation of how bloody buggy this game can be. The two then, one can assume, have some steamy and intense sexual relations, which I presume counts as joining the Mile High Club, right? With no time for morning cuddles the next day, we head off to kill Le Peltier and learn that with his help, a vote has been passed to execute the king. We also learn that Francois Thomas Germain will be in attendance at the execution. However, at the execution, Germain anticipates our intervention and is protected by armed guards. After the scuffle, Arno is forced to choose between chasing Germain or helping Elise. Fearing for her life, he saves his lover and allows Germain to get away. Elise, however, does not thank us. Instead, she berates us for letting Germain go and claims we're not as invested in avenging her father as she is before storming off. Meanwhile, the Assassin Order learn of our recent exploits and, having told us to leave the Germain investigation alone, we are exiled from the group for consistently acting without authority. Depressed, Arno naturally turns to alcoholism. Several months later, he is visited by Elise, who manages to convince Arno to return to his mission. Going it alone without the Brotherhood banner, I guess as a kind of murdery freelancer, we find and kill Latouche, the King of Beggars' right-hand man from earlier, who has since moved up the Templar ranks. Through his memories, we learn of Thomas Germain's final conspirator, Maximilien Robespierre. We find and interrogate Robespierre, and although he firstly proves to be unwilling to cooperate, our girlfriend goes a bit mental and shoots him in the mouth. Whew. Anyone else a little bit turned on? The mouthless wonder then writes the location of Germain. After following the location, we find Germain and oh shit! It would appear Germain has located the magical sword from the game's prologue. The fight leads us to the temple catacombs, during which Arno is trapped under some rubble. In an almost mirrored situation to earlier, Elise is presented with the choice of helping Arno or stopping Germain from escaping. Unlike Arno, she chooses Germain, despite Arno warning that they should only fight him together. The duo fight, and a short time later, the power in the sword becomes unstable and explodes. The blast kills our dear Elise and mortally injures Germain. Arno slowly executes Germain before we learn that the Templar Grand Master is the elusive sage that our modern-day allies are seeking. In an emotional scene, Arno bids his lover farewell before carrying her lifeless body out of the tombs. In a flash forward, we see Arno, now a master assassin, returning to the tomb with his friend Napoleon. He finds and retrieves Germain's body and buries him amongst others in the Paris catacombs. In the modern day, Bishop is pleased, stating that as the body is so badly decayed and hidden amongst others, it would be impossible for the modern day Templars to find the body or extract DNA. And there you have it, the story of Assassin's Creed Unity. Once again, my sincere apologies to anyone French for butchering all of the names in this video. But that said, I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please do hit subscribe. It's massively appreciated. I'm just one guy who likes playing video games and then talking about them on YouTube. Thank you.